Adversity? Bring it. The struggle? We welcome it. Snooze on life? Never that. We are Dave Regina and Mike Pirelli, and this is the No Snooze Podcast. Come on.
Welcome back, No Snooze Podcast, episode 101. It's good to be in the, what is that, three figures, I guess now? Three figures, baby. I am here with the big three, as always. Michael, the show Pirelli, Claudio, the voice, Valenzuela,
I shook the shake.
And I am Dave, the body, Regina. I'm convinced now that people are saying it with me. That's why I'm taking the extra pause in between my words.
There's got to be people that sing along. Now that
sing along. The sing along.
Now that we're in the three-figure club, you know, one of my favorite sayings, you got to be two-some to do some.
That's right.
Once you get in the twos. And do you feel like more of like an OG podcaster?
It's funny. I feel no different than I did before.
Okay.
But I will say that it's nice now having the credibility of 100, knowing that we can look back and say, wow, we've been doing this for 2 years. We stuck to the plan, and now we're just continuing the journey.
Fair.
Right?
Well said.
Couple things, I guess, before we get started, but this world is crazy, man. And I know you don't like, talking about this stuff as he looks to the left. But too many shootings, man. Like we're in a place right now to where we have kids of our own, right? And we're supposed to be sending our kids to safe places. I mean, a couple weeks ago was the supermarket, right? A couple weeks before that, the subway station. Just, I guess, yesterday, but we're recording now. Just yesterday was the shooting in Texas. It's getting very alarming because what is supposed to be a safe place in this world, you just don't know anymore. And I get the whole race conversation and all that stuff. I work local politics myself, where I am on a reform committee in our town. But I struggle because it's not just a race issue, right? You saw, you see, yes, a white shooter, then you see a black shooter. Yesterday was a Hispanic shooter. So it's all walks of life. But I think what's tough now is the problem is really the hate that's in these people. And how do you legislate hate?
All I know is it's a problem.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a tragedy.
It's just, it's wild to think about because I feel like even us growing up, we never had to really worry about that. And now, like I made a joke to Karina, but really in my head, I'm like, damn, like maybe I do see why people homeschool their kids. Because I'm like, that's it. Callie's not going to school. Yeah. But it's listen, man, rest in peace to everybody involved in the latest shootings. Unfortunately, we know this won't be the end of it. But I don't think like gun laws are the answer either. I really don't because, those triggers don't pull themselves. It's the people behind the guns that are actually doing it. So we got to, as a society, somehow figure out how to be kind and respectful to one another and abolish this hate, man. So that's that. Just definitely wanted to touch on that because it's like I don't want to sit here and not act like that's going on in this world. Podbot update, though. I feel like your biceps are screaming at me. I saw you with your shirt off the other day at the pool.
I thought you were going to get some footage, but I'm happy you didn't.
No, you looked good. I'm not going to lie.
I've had that pump cover on this whole time.
What is that? Like a...
you don't know what a pump cover is.
Wait a second.
Do you wear a pump cover?
Wait a second.
Sweatshirt. It's a sweatshirt. Oversized sweatshirt.
What do girls wear? I don't know if it's just girls. Especially on Dykeman.
Waist trainer.
Yeah, especially on Dykeman.
What you're saying?
A faja, yes.
A what?
A faja. You have a faja?
Blast?
Do you have a faja?
What's a faja? Are you talking about a corset?
Michael, the faja Pirelli.
Corset. Who calls a faja?
It is a faja.
Oh.
Yeah. No, listen.
Well, mine goes up so I can accentuate.
Let us know. Am I on the camera here? Let us know if you want to see Michael, the show Pirelli, in a faja.
I will wear. I wear a faja.
If you do,
I daily wear.
We could throw up a poll right here. So the yes, the no. So I'll throw that on Instagram.
My unofficial mentor, Sadiq Hatovic. shout out Sadiq.
Who's like one of the number one bodybuilders in the world.
Listen, if you walk with the sheep, you develop a limp. What is it? If you walk with the lame, you develop a limp.
I don't.
What is it?
I don't know.
You never heard that? If you walk with the lame,
you walk with a sheep, you develop a limp.
Exactly.
What is that?
So he's a lion, right? So I like to surround myself with people that are just above and beyond, like yourself, right?
Okay,
I'll throw you in that.
All right.
Sadiq, a little tighter.
He's much tighter.
Little tighter.
Little tighter.
Take a gander at that guy. unbelievable. And again,
Yes, quick note. I was not
Do you know
included in that list, by the way. Thank
What?
you. Thank you.
CV, we're working towards
We're
it.
working.
babe.
We're working.
towards
We're working.
it. So he said, listen, when you're at this level, every edge counts. And for me, I get these waist trainers that I rock, and it just tightens the chest. It reminds me to keep the
Kid,
core tight.
The fajas. You're putting a faja.
Faja blast, baby.
You are putting a faja on.
So, let's talk strength. 315 for 10.
Oh, your boy?
A lot of bounce. A lot of bounce, though.
Well, today,
keep that butt on the thing too. I saw the butt lift.
well, listen, when you're struggling to get it done, right? You got to find a way.
You gotta get it done.
You got to find a way.
I agree.
So yes, today I hit my first 315 pounds on the bench press for my last set for 10 repetitions.
So I would agree with you. I come from the school of thought that I'm working on my form. Don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of obviously you don't want to get injured, but a lot of it comes down to like maybe it's not the perfect end to the set, but mentally to get that 10th rep.
Oh yeah.
Next time, worry about form. But to
you
get
gotta. I have to push through my heels, which is something we teach athletes too. You push through your heels.
I can't get my feet
You
flat.
push through the heels, get the weight up. So yeah, definitely on the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, struggling. But I didn't even have a spot there, which is a little stupid.
Yeah.
But when you're aligned,
I liked it, though. I like
when you're
a little
aligned,
stupid.
you don't develop a limp. You know.
So what was the breakdown of those sets?
So I had a 15, 12, 10, 8, 6.
Jesus Christ.
Then I went to 10 after that.
All right, we're doing different workouts.
We're doing different workouts. So yeah, no, shout out Ambrosio Castellana.
Love it.
But no, that type of stuff is not on the workout.
You're just doing like
I'm doing like extra just to make sure, just to see if the strength is working.
which I like because
You know?
some days you feel strong and you're like, this is my time to take a swing.
Yes.
So
I swung.
You swung good. That was a good swing. Decent swing.
Decent swing.
So I'm doing 5x5s
Great.
because I'm thinking, I talked to a couple people about it. One of my new clients is the number one, or he has the state record for bench. So I asked him, like, how do I gain strength? He does in Connecticut. Swear to God, 500 pounds, 550.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And he's not a big dude. So he was like, listen, go 5 for 5 and every week add, 5 on each side. So 10.
I mean, until you can't do that anymore.
Exactly. Then he's like, drop 3 to 3 and then, do the same thing.
3x3.
3x3. Then you do your max out 1 and then you start it again.
Gotcha.
And start at a higher, whatever. So because I'm realizing that as much as I enjoy the cardio, I don't have as much time for it. And the weightlifting has been more important to try to retain muscle. So my body fat percentage stays, or my muscle stays high.
Right.
So that it's a little easier to get to my 10. So that's the change this year versus last attempt. Where I think I just went to like, all right, I'm just going to starve myself and try to get there.
It's almost a year because, it's
And I
almost
remember
Father's
what
Day.
happened.
It's
I
almost
remember how I
Father's Day.
failed last
And last
time.
Father's Day, I remember you sent me a video and you were 14%.
Jacked.
Yeah, you looked good. You had a beer in your
I was
hand.
not jacked.
No, you
Was
but
I
you were like
tight?
14%.
Oh, yes. I was chugging a beer in
Yes.
the video. That was a good video.
That was a good video.
I was prepping
We gotta
to have
find
everyone
that.
over.
We got to find that.
We literally just moved in the house.
Yes.
No AC. It was 1,000 degrees. And we were like, yeah, everyone come over.
Can we talk about the neck piece, though?
What neck piece?
So you had put a video up and you said, I'm starting this new thing where I'm, involving the neck,
Unbelievable. Do you see how powerful I am?
which is funny.
It looks like I'm going to snap the weight in half.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
I
You're
know,
supposed
that's
to hold
what
it
I
like
feel
that.
like,
That's a good thing. But one of the first things I remember learning
which
in
was good.
athletic performance, right, was specifically, it's called the one joint rule, right? So you have your spine that runs all the way from the top of your neck,
Yeah.
right? Those are the C's, all the way to your coccyx bone, which is basically by your butt,
Okay.
right? So there's a rule when you're bench pressing that you want to make it like one joint, right? So by you lifting your neck off the bench press, you completely take away the ability to stay flat in one joint.
But if my shoulders are pinned like they should be, and
Right,
I have that
but
arch,
your
it
your
doesn't
neck is
matter.
your spine.
Yes, but the point of contact is at my lower back, upper back. excuse me.
Correct.
So when this moves, this should have no effect, is my understanding.
Right, but
Sorry.
you want to be pushing basically with one joint, whereas your joint is starting. You're keeping it in one
But
joint.
I'm saying I
but
got
it
one
starts
joint
at-
from shoulder to, and then my head gives me that. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll give you the motion. So the breathing, all the little details I'm getting down. Comes down, you got to tight,
Yep,
right?
tight,
Maybe
tight.
belt just to make it nice,
Yep.
nice and tight with the
Just
belt.
to make it nice.
You can bring down. You know, when you're bringing it down, it's like you're pulling back a bow and arrow.
Yep.
And then,
Yes.
and I have
That's
to
all
say,
true. That's all
it
true.
probably added 30 pounds to
Yeah.
my bench. Just like
My only
that
thing is
one
longevity.
trick.
They teach that. They teach that to athletes to sustain them.
Yeah, I don't
and
want to get
be-
hurt. Believe
Right.
me, I don't want to get
Well,
hurt.
I don't know. It was just fun. It was hilarious to see.
So
But it looks good. I'm not gonna lie.
So
It
I
looks
like.
good.
I have to say, as you can see, I'm a little bit of a. I forget what the word is. Like I like the counter approach to things.
I like the counter approach.
Yeah, like if someone tells
Like
me
if somebody tells me that there's a proven scientific
Yes.
formula,
Yes.
I want to do the opposite.
sometimes, and I want to check it out because I'm always very skeptical of what.
This sounds like in 100 episodes from today, he'll be like, "Oh, I finally
Yeah, it's
started listening
possible.
to the podcast."
But for me, I have to learn it myself,
Yes.
and I will then admit that I was wrong in the past.
You're not wrong though, because even myself, sometimes I have a backwards hat on.
Okay.
If I bench, so I can't possibly be on the actual bench.
And you
right?
feel
so I do
strong,
it myself. No,
You feel strong.
No, but then there's times I feel like my neck is a little, then I turn my hat around. But it's not a bad thing. It was just funny to.
So I'm definitely playing with the technique a little bit because I am like it was very light last time, which I was surprised by. That's I'm getting to the point where I'm buying weights every week to make sure I keep up with my strength, which is what you want. So someone broke my dumbbells, by the way. So I listen to me. Ready?
weights,
How about this? I get home, I go to start working out. Maybe it was the next morning, and I pulled the dumbbells out, and half of the dumbbell didn't come up. So I'm like, what the fuck happened? Put them back in. The little ones. I think the guys were working and were fucking around, pardon my French, messing around and broke them.
I snapped
The
them.
good thing is those were the light ones. I don't need the light ones anymore. I got the heavy ones. So,
$700 down the drain, no biggie.
well, I'll fix it. I'll figure it
No
out.
biggie.
But no, I feel good. I feel very confident, surprisingly.
You look good, but I've never felt more confident in a bet in my life. I don't know about you,
So
Steve.
this is where I'm coming from, and I want to hear your side. When you see everything on Instagram and stuff, maybe I'm throwing you off. So
and it could be old content too.
it is. That's all in one day.
See,
That's
so
the type of eating I do.
I know.
This time around, my confidence is stemming from I realize I have not had anything go my way, and I've been able to stick to the new lifestyle.
What hasn't gone your way?
No sleep ever. Work's been
But
nuts.
that's just life, man. We got to do.
I know, but I'm saying in the past,
You've
a lot of things were going my way,
different.
and I was in a worse position.
Gotcha.
Whereas
Okay.
now,
I'm just trying to get clarity on what
yeah.
you're saying.
Now, when you go through like a week of adversity, it's not real adversity, but there's like a lot of stuff going on.
I see what you're saying.
And you're like, my workouts haven't been like, I wouldn't say like, oh, I absolutely crushed
The
it.
efficiency level isn't where you want it to be.
Not even that, just, when you get a great workout and you're like, I crushed it today.
Yes.
When that doesn't happen,
Right.
but you still get the days in
Yes.
and you go and there's results, it gives you that base of like, I'm not even at, I still have some room to go. So I'm finding confidence in that I'm gradually, slowly building momentum.
Yep.
And the setbacks aren't derailing me like they did last year.
Gotcha.
You got that?
Very clear.
Diet wise, the adjustment of like, all right, we have a anniversary. Shout out Dana, 4 years, happy anniversary. So we're gonna get Mirna's tonight. Mirna's is a Mediterranean healthy food. You got chicken, you got it's the very basics. That's an adjustment, right?
Yep.
Whereas in the past, I'd be like, let's get a pizza and split it, babe. Let's live like the old
pizza
days.
and a donut.
So I'm learning how I'm definitely taking the approach like I do with investments. I plan on doing things forever now. If it doesn't fit for forever, I'm not going to implement it anymore. There's no more Band-Aids because I don't have time to work on Band-Aids and then redo it.
I like it.
Everything you're doing is building the foundation of a healthy new lifestyle.
Beautiful.
That's the approach now versus last year, let me get to 10 and say F everyone and then get fat again.
Yep. No, I like the approach. I just have to talk a little shit.
No, I like it. You actually are helping me. The
I
more
know,
you guys
I know.
doubt, the more I'm like,
well,
I'm gonna crush it.
I really don't doubt you, but I still
doubt
have
me.
to. No. Because I know I've known you a very long time, and I know that.
But this is a
if you
difficult
go, it's not really that difficult. Your time frame was not difficult at all.
Yeah, it is.
Now you're making it difficult because you're already into June and you got only a
it's
couple
difficult
weeks.
because of I know I use this as an excuse, but it's true. Is the work? This is the work. This is the hardest time work wise, but
it's fine. Mortgages
but I
are
think
going
that's
through the
positive.
roof. You're not going to have any clients soon.
Yeah.
So,
But that I think it's actually helping me because I don't really have time to think. Like last night I ate dinner, we put Livy down to sleep, and I fell asleep. I was exhausted.
Yes.
So there's no time to like have my popcorn, which I miss. I miss my popcorn. Or my Halo top. budget-wise, ground meat, inexpensive, 93.7. I went from Laura's Lean, wasn't available, to just regular Stop and Shop brand. $6 for a pound of meat. Good meat, right? Not bad. Bag of potatoes was like $3. Bag of jasmine rice, another $3.
Wow, sounds like you're
Getting
coming over
jacked
to the
on
other
a
side.
diet.
I don't know.
Is this what you do?
It just sounds like you're prepping your food, which is good.
They call me Air Fryer Jordan. The way I'm prepping.
CV, I saw you sweating when I walked in. Did you just get off the treadmill or something?
He looks great.
Yeah,
right?
I did. Actually, I have some bad news. Not bad news. Not the no more downward trend. There was a 1 pound gain after the last weigh-in.
Okay.
And it kind of demoralized me. I'm not gonna lie.
What was the difference, you think?
I mean, I definitely had a bunch of bread that I probably shouldn't have had. That was
hanging out with Mike,
in excess. Yeah.
Don't tell
and
me
I
you
know that my
snapped
snacking the week prior was also kind of tough. Something that I wanted to bring up, and I think this is starting to happen now that the weather's gotten nicer. I find myself exerting myself more outside of the workout or whatever, which makes me exhausted, which is a good thing, right? However, I've noticed that one, the more I exert, the hungrier I get, which is bad because it makes me snack at other times, maybe when I shouldn't. And also, like, I feel like my workouts, like you were saying, Mike, my workouts are not as I knocked it out. Like I'm doing them and I'm working hard, but when I'm done, I'm like, oh, I'm done. I can't move. Whereas before, it'd be like, oh, I feel great. I just killed it. It was awesome. This past weekend was really tough. We did a lot of and the work that I do is outside. It's kind of physical at times. So I get physically drained. Like I did some stuff in the yard. I had my muscles were killing me. My hamstrings, my back, my quads. So I was shot Monday. I didn't even make it till 9:00. I was passing out on the couch, last night, Tuesday. And that was last night, right? Same thing. Struggling to stay up. You know what I mean? Just exhausted. Yeah. So, and then I get my sleep. I wake up in the morning exhausted. I can barely get up. So I force myself to get up. I force myself in the machine. I do my walk, which is a good walk because after a while, after the first 10 minutes or so, then my body starts kind of warming up to things and I get a pretty decent workout, but it's feeling different. Mm-hmm. How do we overcome this? How do we get through this? And I know that it's just because I'm doing more, which is a good thing. But how do we overcome this?
See, I think you incorporate, I would love to hear your thing. I think you got to incorporate new wrinkles, not totally abandon, but keep some fresh to get you excited again. I like that. Like incorporate a new piece of equipment or, a weight belt, something that makes me feel like I'm taking another step.
I almost feel like prior to the spring coming, it was really me just focusing on me.
Yeah.
And it was kind of easy because it was just me. I just got to focus on me. I just got to make sure that I get up, I do this, the food that I was eating, just very focused on that. Yeah. And it was a pure focus on me, which was awesome because I was able to dedicate it to that. But as the springtime came around and I started doing more things and I'm all over the place outside and now I'm draining myself physically in addition to what I'm doing in the morning, it's just taking a toll and just making me more tired. I'm not upset about it. I actually feel good about it. But when it comes time to getting the things done that I want to do, it's like, I got to do it, right? Mm-hmm. This weekend I didn't work out 2 days in a row. First time this year, other than me being sick, that I've done 2 days in a row.
It's a Dave rule, isn't it?
Damn.
That was the thing that you had started, and I kind of started doing, and I loved it. I
thought you were built different.
I don't believe in that.
I loved whatever. But yeah, I had to take the break because I had to do things outside, and it's not like I didn't do anything that day. Right. Those days I probably killed myself even worse than when I do a regular workout. I was shot for 2 days after the weekend was over, But it's those mental things, I need to get my workout in. And that's what was kind of being compromised a little bit.
Well, kind of the magic too is that you've come so far. So if you look at a graph, you don't get as discouraged by that 1 pound because you're holy, right. All right, well, there was a 1 and then I'm just, so that's how I'm thinking too now. Yeah. Whereas in the past, I was the same way as you. I'm I didn't get this week. Yeah. And then it compounds and then it's all negative versus when you zoom out, you're damn, I'm so far from where I was. This is just, I'm just going to adjust and I'll be back at it, right. But that's with everything.
I mean, that's what I'm looking at it because I'm still. So it's not like I'm not working out. It's not like I'm
you look
completely
great.
Derailed on the food. I'm still doing all the right things.
Yeah.
And even this week after I saw the 1 pound difference, I was maybe I need to hold back on the snacks a little bit. But it's I don't know.
I heard a great quote I have to share because this is so appropriate. I don't know who I was following, but it just had a quote and there was a woman that was posing and it says the scale does not measure sexy,
Nah,
which I thought was hilarious.
that is good.
You know,
Yeah.
because like what does weight mean?
Well,
It's
and
like
that's the whole thing.
nothing, you know?
The whole
That's
scale
just
thing.
composition.
It's only as a point of reference to kind of see where I
Yeah.
was. And I remember in the very beginning when you guys asked, I wasn't even looking at the weight. I didn't want to look at the weight because
Yeah.
the scale, for that same reason. And now that I've kind of gotten, so we have this thing every Friday. I weigh myself.
Body Fat Fridays, baby.
Right. And if it's been a good week, that means the weekend I can enjoy a little
Touch
bit.
it up a little bit.
Because that means that I've been really doing some good work. So when I saw the scale not hit that, I was like, this weekend we're not doing anything. We're eating twigs and leaves.
Twigs and berries.
Yeah.
No.
You know what a habit I started? This is kind of funny. I constantly pinch my hip, and I can feel
The hip pinch.
that I'm losing body fat. Is that weird? You know
No.
when you do the caliper? I might buy calipers because you know how I get obsessed, and I might just every morning
Just every morning. just
because
squeeze.
it's hard for me because every time I get on the scale, it's close to, it's not a huge change, but I know it's not going up, so I'm like, all right, I'm in the ballpark. But I like to do that because I'm constantly like, ooh, it's tight today.
Wait, isn't
you
that
know?
an actual thing? Like
Yeah, calipers.
scientifically? No,
Yeah.
I know.
What? Body fat calipers?
Oh, there are body fat
Yeah,
calipers?
they're-
Oh.
That's how-
I only
before
know
these-
calipers like from auto mechanics.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you
yeah.
have to measure like certain
But
things.
before these
But I thought I'd heard them for like fat.
these techie scales, it was only that. That's how like
So you
people
kind
were
of grab
measuring.
the little.
Yep.
That's how I'm weighing in, actually.
Yeah.
I'm buying my own calipers.
Yeah. Oh, great. He's gonna be 10% tomorrow. No, I think Mike
You're
hit
just
it
gonna
on the
squeeze it
head.
tighter
man.
and tighter.
I think you definitely have to zoom out because you're almost still thinking like it's a temporary lifestyle. This isn't temporary for you anymore. You know, if you've committed to this being a permanent solution and a permanent, lifestyle change, you're fine. You're not supposed to make progress every single week. Yes, you do, have the ability to continue to lose pounds of fat, but there are going to be times that your life is a little bit tougher one week, and that's okay. But zooming out, really understanding like, all right, you know what? It's a humble moment because, this week I didn't make the progress that I wanted to make. But now it's all about, because if I really sit down and I ask you, I'm sure there's 15 things you could change.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? There's 15 of them, maybe 20. All of us.
I gave you just like
It's a
2 or
long
3
game.
Of
alone
course.
that were bad enough that if you took those away, I guarantee you that pound wouldn't have
See,
shown
that's
up.
what's good. And I'm even
But
at
I
a
wanted
level,
to treat myself too, which was like
Right.
I feel like it's a necessary thing to be able to give yourself
To
some.
sustain
Of course.
Yeah.
But even me, at even the level that I'm at, right, which is no bodybuilder astronomical level, if I really dissect it,
Oh, yeah.
there's still 15 things I could change if I want to really continue the progress. So I do understand what you're saying about the whole scale thing, this and that.
Doesn't matter.
But there's also realistic. There's also realistic, right? Like we all, if we wanted to, I mean,
depends what
some
the goal
more than
is, though.
others, Mike more than Dave. But if you really wanted to make progress every single week in terms of losing fat, you can because you have that on your body to lose, right? We all do.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. I like being realistic about it, but also positive about it because you can't let it derail you to where you're going to stop. If you allow that to take over, then that just means that this little motivation that you were on is only that. It's motivation. Motivation wears off.
By the way, I found a new hack. I don't know if it's a
Ooh,
hack,
give it to me. I love hacks.
but I feel like you asked me some questions.
Can I lose a
few
percent
episodes
body
back.
fat?
No, not on that. Can you? Yeah,
No,
actually, you
for
could,
me,
you could
for the
definitely gain
hack.
from this
Okay,
hack.
I like it. I like
This
it.
is good.
You
Ready?
sure you want to help me?
You're right. Dave, can we go celebrate now? Again? Okay, we need to. So
I'm gonna buy a suit.
on my
I'm gonna
on my
spend that
machine.
money on a suit and it come in beautiful.
Beautiful.
I had told you guys. Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. I mean, I'm
I'm gonna wear it every episode just to remind you guys. I
suit
am
is $800.
the body. I'm gonna get the body on the inside.
So I used to put these workouts on the treadmill, right? And you hike with them or you walk with them. You do different levels or whatever. And after a while, I started not following what they were saying and kind of making my own. I kind of hear what they say and I'll kind of adjust. And how it started was like I would do like these quote unquote recovery walks, and they're very, very low intensity. I don't even think it's a real workout, to be honest. But usually the scenery that you see on the TV or on the monitor is pretty cool. It's usually like a beach walk or whatever, which makes you feel super like
I love it.
breezy, right? So what I started doing was
Super breezy.
like putting in my own workout, my own intervals, my own like go fast to go slow, throughout the whole workout while they're doing like a recovery walk. So you can kind of adjust it manually.
Yeah.
So now I only do recovery walks because the scenery is usually cooler and I like it better. And then I adjust like the speed. So
So what's the hack?
That's the hack.
You do like recovery mode on it, so you get like a scenery.
So you don't have to follow their workout. You kind of do your own workout.
That's me on the Peloton. I never
understand.
follow. I ride in Italy.
Okay. So you're using the scenery as a motivator.
I love this. I love walking.
Gotcha.
I've figured out that I love walking on the beach. Sometimes when they go into the mountains and this and that, I'm like, oh.
You should put sand on your treadmill.
You gotta come to Todd's.
You know, so it's cool.
They have a 2.5 mile loop. Beautiful. We did it with Livy on. So that stuff's fun when you start like now. Even now, I'm incorporating thoughts of like, all right, well, Livy's up early, and I was talking to Dana, and Dana was like, I don't know if it was Dana's idea or mine, but instead of saying like, oh, let's get breakfast, it was let's go pick up coffee and go for a walk. It's a different. You're not rewarding yourself with like food.
Yep.
You're rewarding yourself with like a fun activity and a beautiful view.
Like a fat person.
Well, I am.
You're not rewarding yourself with food.
I've had such a bad relationship with food, and it's come out. I never thought it was a bad relation, but
is it a bad relationship?
Yes.
Or is it that
it's bad. I binge,
and then he goes with 1,000 calories.
Hold on, because if you remember when we were
bad, I just didn't understand it.
When we were younger, we never really worried about that stuff because we were so active that it honestly didn't even matter what you ate because you were so active and you were burning probably twice as much as you were eating. The difference is not as adults, we don't burn nearly as much as what we did then. So is the relationship that bad, or is it just that we've lowered our activity level to the point where we have to be very much more conscious about that?
My relationship
very much more
personally was bad because when I like you're saying, I never had an issue. And then when I went to, where was I? Maybe college or studying abroad. So at one point I was like, all right, I got to lose this weight fast. And I had so many good results on doing it the way I did, which was not healthy, that every time I need to lose, I would just snap back into what worked. And then when you learn more and more and you understand it, it's not sustainable. And you have a podcast and a friend, and he's an asshole.
7%.
You learn, and then now the biggest change for me was I don't have all the time in the world anymore to like stay at the gym for 2.5 hours. So you're forced to figure out what's the most efficient way and what is sustainable and I can maintain forever. And then you adjust. So
sounds like slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, but then I put these bets on it just to keep, get the accelerated a little bit.
You've had a year to do this.
2 years. 2 years.
2 years. 2 years.
But if you look at my history and everything, I'm a little slower.
Yes.
But
you get there.
But my real estate world, I think about this a lot. Like a lot of people outpaced me early, and now those people aren't even in the business. So it's like there's something to trying a bunch of stuff and maybe not knocking it out of the park in the first couple of years, but in 20 years, I could look back and be like, wow, like I really came a long way.
Well, hopefully 3 years, so that way Dave and I can win the bet.
3 years?
No, I agree with what you're saying.
saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. I'm not very hard on myself with certain things. Like I'm not hard on myself with.
I'm extremely hard.
Yeah, you're extremely hard.
My bicep. I'm touching my biceps, by the way, because if you're just listening to this, me saying that probably doesn't sound. But I do. Too good.
But I do realize. That because I talk so much smack about stuff and a lot of times don't achieve it, that I'm considered delusional until I'm not. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like you could say, "Oh, I'm gonna hit home run, and you don't do it for 2 years, and then you hit the home run. You're like, "I told you."
I told you I was gonna hit that home run.
That's like people with the stock market who say the market's gonna crash, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're crazy." And then it happens once, and all of a sudden they're geniuses.
Yes.
We wanted to take a quick second to let you guys know that we partnered with our good friends over at Orgain.com. We're happy to offer our listeners 30% off by entering the code NoSnooze30. Again, that's NoSnooze30 for 30% off your first order. If you're on the market for a new protein powder, nutritional shake, protein bar, or Mike's favorite, collagen peptides, Orgain is your one-stop shop. As all of you know, my Crohn's disease is currently in remission, and the only protein I use is from Orgain. My personal favorites are the chocolate peanut butter and the vanilla bean. With the code, you can try a 2-pound tub for under $20. Talk about not snoozing. Go get yours today. Now, back to the epi.
As we recorded 100, right? I did a little reflective piece on myself.
Okay.
Just kind of sitting there thinking, nothing really formal. But one of the things that has come up, which I did start, thank God I started working on this, thing that we'll talk about in terms of overcoming conflict. It's one of the biggest changes that I've made personally in my life, especially with my relationships, right? Because I think conflict in general is it's going to happen, right? Just in life, conflicts arise every day. Doesn't matter if it's a small conflict, at work or with your wife or with a friend, or if it's something, bigger in business and it's like a life-changing conflict or something like that. The point is conflict is going to happen, right? But the way that I used to respond to conflict, like just even 4 years ago, is so much different than I respond to conflict today. And I want to talk a little bit about conflict because I just think it works with everything that we do, obviously for the podcast, because the podcast is about growth at the end of the day, right? It's progress. So when I was sitting back on the couch, I'm like really thinking of things that I've progressed in besides going from 15% to a beautiful 7.
That's pretty weird. It's even weird to say.
No, you get what I'm saying though? And conflict was definitely one of them.
Okay.
For sure.
I need a little definition of conflict though, because it's pretty that's a vague.
A definition of conflict?
Or like when you say give me an example, like
well, for me it's more of like a radical change when it came to handling conflict. I believe
so
this.
Like
let me
arguments
break
type
correct.
Of thing?
Let me break this down for you.
Okay.
All right. I think there's 2 extremes when it comes to conflict.
Don't you? Whenever you
You
bring
like
your
that?
hands up,
You
I'm
like
ready
that?
to knock you out.
That's conflict right there, by the way.
Right. No.
If I can get my arm around
One,
his
I
neck.
think engaging in conflict is healthy.
It keeps dropping.
Right? You hear what I'm saying? I think conflict itself is healthy. But the way that I was personally handling conflict, because conflict's going to happen every day. It's inevitable at the end of the day. But what I'm talking about is there's 2 extremes of handling conflict. You got the one guy who goes for, or girl, goes for the kill, the destroyer. This was me. It didn't matter what type of argument. I still want to be right at the end of the day, always. But if I was in a negative conflict per se, and I'm fighting with, my wife, my boss, whoever, a friend, I'm going to destroy you was my mindset, right? No, seriously. Like that was kind of how I grew up. I grew up in a household that if you argued, there had to be one person that was clearly right.
Okay.
Then you have the other spectrum, which is pretty much like Karina, my wife, where, that individual tries to avoid conflict, right? And that person is almost accepting of like living in denial for certain things because they're not willing to engage in the conflict. So you got the destroyer, we're called, and then the person that will live in denial, right? And both of them I think are terrible. I think there's a healthy medium that we have to find.
And there's Mike Pirelli.
To overcome conflict in general. And by overcoming conflict doesn't mean that you don't engage in conflict. It's the ability to have a conflict, have a disagreement, have something, an argument or something, and the ability to move on without holding a grudge.
Well said.
Is that clarity?
Yeah, that's
to the
perfect.
point?
That was a perfect, because sometimes you can take it a bunch of ways.
Yeah. I get you. I think you, how would you describe yourself when it comes to conflict in general? The type of individual, if you were on that scale, right? You do embody some destroyer qualities, but then I think you also are able to, have the ability to hear people out. But I've seen you on both sides, just like you've seen me on both sides.
Yeah.
And it's something that you don't typically discuss.
So I was listening to something that said that people have a, what was the word? I don't want to say delusional, but a view that they're better at things than they actually are. Mm-hmm. Like if you ask anyone if they're a good driver, they all say, yes, I'm a great driver. And the reality is no one, like a very small percentage of the world is a great driver. Like, do you think I think I'm a great driver.
I think I'm a very aware driver, which bothers me about individuals. Cause like sometimes I'll see people like, pull this one gets me all the time. You have 2 lanes next to each other.
Yeah.
Say I'm the car in the left.
Okay.
Right. And then there's a car on my right. And then somebody's going to try to turn to make the left, which would be the same direction that both cars are going. Mm-hmm. Right? So you have this person here that will tell this car to come and not know if the car next to them is stopped or not.
I do that all the time.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah, so it's like, yes, in your perspective.
I'm not a good driver.
You hear what I'm saying though? In your perspective, yes, you're clear to roll.
Yeah.
But you didn't look back or in your mirror to see if the other person next to you is stopped.
I don't want to get too off track here.
It's an awareness,
hilarious.
right?
I think I'm pretty aware also because I was a point guard. So I could see stuff happening on the road, which makes me knock on wood because I just canceled OnStar.
Popping and weaving, baby.
I literally just canceled OnStar, and they were trying to sign me up for more stuff, and I had a conflict, and I handled it. I would say I think I'm getting. I don't know. I try to improve on it and not be as fiery about things. Like I'm trying to be a lot more logical and kind of laid back, because ultimately at the end of the day, a lot of it doesn't matter. And sometimes in the past, I've let things, because of stress levels, which I think I handle way better now, and like lack of sleep and all
You
that
always
stuff.
do this.
What?
Keep going. Because you're leading right into something I'm going to say now.
We're on the same wavelength.
No, I'm telling you, but I love when you do this.
In addition to 10% over here, the brain is probably fattier with thoughts. It's all going up to my head. Maybe that's why I'm so high in body fat. Is my brain.
As your brain.
Someone check that. Fact check. So I think I'm trying to improve on it and just not be as adversarial in general. My boss at my company is unbelievable at this. You bring him a problem or a conflict, and he basically disarms you by asking follow-up questions and understanding you more, and then giving you a response based on what he's saying.
Yep.
But by the time you get to it, he's already done, jujitsu on your brain, and you're just laid back, and you're like, how did he? So I've seen that, and I want it to translate to my personal life and just friends and family. I think I am I bring out the most conflict for the people I'm closest with.
Of course, I think.
And over the dumbest stuff.
Right.
So scheduling things is always a conflict. Sometimes I'm too quick to be like, it doesn't work. Or why'd you do that? Or, there's just certain triggers I have that I'm aware of. It's just hard to control them. Mm-hmm. And, thank God Dana has been on the podcast. I'm sure she could speak to this a lot better. But I would say overall, the thing I try to think about is it's very simple, but wait to respond is the biggest thing that I've taken into account professionally and personally.
That's a good one.
When someone comes at me with a problem, technically it's a conflict or an issue or mad at me about something, I always try to kind of wait, think about it, and then respond. Don't just respond right away.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be a long time. Even if it's you get a text, and you look at the text, you read it, you put your phone down.
Because you have the initial reaction.
Correct.
Right.
And sometimes that initial reaction isn't wrong.
Yes.
But there's a way to phrase
Deliver
it.
that.
Correct.
So
that's something
100%.
that I'm trying to be better on, because we are so rushed.
Yes.
In life, in general. Everyone's busy. So when something pops up, you're like, I got to handle it. I don't want to deal with this later.
Yep.
But sometimes it's easier to deal with it later because both sides have had time to kind of figure out what is it actually the problem versus what triggered that first.
Right. So to that exact point, there's certain things that as the big process, as I'm sitting down, there's things that I've learned.
Some would say the biggest.
That the biggest process that I'm able now to, I think, identify. And one of the things that you said was stress, which is definitely a trigger for sure. But the first thing is conflict happens for a reason, the majority of the time because of something else. Right? So conflict happens because of something else that's going on. So I have here, for me, in my household, it's when I'm tired and irritable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? I'm more likely to get into some sort of conflict. And then at work, it's when I'm stressed or feel disrespected. I've noticed that those are two things for me that if somebody says something to me or I'm in a stressful environment, I'm more likely to engage in a conflict. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Right? CV, you had something?
How do you gauge feeling from actual, like you said, when I feel disrespected? How do you gauge your feeling on what something is and what it actually could be?
Right. So it's a great question, but honestly, conflict is happening because of some reason. So most of the time, somebody else is saying something to me, and it's either I'm perceiving it that way or they have something else going on in their life. So honestly, I don't think there's something that you can just identify and be like, oh my God, is that just an emotion or is this a real attack on something? I think you have to engage in the conflict to actually see what it is, if that makes sense to you. Right? It's definitely not a black and white answer, but for me, the triggers for sure, my wife and I will get into stupid arguments when we're extremely tired.
Yeah.
So even just having that realization, what?
Because you're more emotional when you're tired.
Correct. And now we're able to be like, you know what? Let's not go there. We're both tired. We're both being dramatic. We're both in a state of mind that this conflict isn't even going to be worth it. And it wouldn't even be a conversation if this was in the morning.
So something that, again, I'm working on is I don't want to be right anymore.
Yep.
I just want it to be productive. So we can agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, there's got to be something that came of it, else it's wasted time. Right? And that's something that negotiating in the real estate world has been really helpful to learn, because at the end of the day, like someone in negotiations, they think you got to like win, right? But that doesn't help you get through the rest of the process, because if someone feels bad about what just happened, they're going to be more likely to back out, right? Versus, I don't need to be right and we don't need to win this, but we can compromise and be productive, and there can be a solution that comes of it.
Right.
And those solutions are best when they have some input from both sides.
Correct.
So like for arguments per se, which I don't like talking about the personal stuff anymore because I think I do a terrible job and I'm learning, but it's always like, all right, the argument was this, like, what did we come to? We still disagree, but we can try to do this.
Yep.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
like the reason the argument came about could be because of something, and I could still think I'm right about it. And, you know, whoever I'm arguing with, most likely Dana, can also think she's right about it.
Yes.
And we don't have to agree that one is right or one's not. We just have to agree, well, moving forward, do X.
Yes.
So you don't need to close that chapter. You don't want it to come back up, but it might. But as long as you're saying, all right, well, we'll try this, there's a chance it doesn't come back.
I agree. That's definitely on my list as well. I'll save that, I guess, for the next one. It's funny how I knew when we were talking about this, we're gonna do exactly this. This is what I like.
Here's the thing too. Who cares if you're right? Right?
Yes.
Like that just comes down to like bragging.
Yep.
And saying, I'm right, I'm all this. I'd much rather have the result of being, I'm trying to give a good example, like investments, right? If you put money into a thing and you're like, I really do believe in it, but I'm going to hedge my risk and do something else. And then that thing that you hedge your risk and you do something else with it does very well. You're not going to go brag to people like, my original investment didn't work. I mean, you are. I'm trying to give you an example. But basically, the ability to change your mind, because at the end of the day, people are stubborn like myself, and you want to be right about things, but at the end, it doesn't really matter.
Yes.
Who cares if you're right about this one thing, as long as you were productive and something good came of it?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And I think...
Does that make any sense?
Yes, you make a ton of sense. The big sense, if you will.
Sense.
I also believe, this is what I've learned, that conflicts aren't always what you think that they're about. Because like CV was saying, that's almost an emotion, right? So I have two specific examples. One is with my wife. One is with a really good friend of mine that, my wife, I remember at the time I was working 7 days a week, right? I was caddying, I was catering, I was working at Nike, I was working for the county. Yeah.
You were in the big food industry?
Yeah, man.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
What were you catering?
Like $170 a night, kid.
What the? What are you catering?
Yeah.
What kind of
Perry
foods?
DiNapoli was his name. My dad's good friend.
Pizza?
No. And he owned a catering hall.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
So
My
on
bad,
the
my
weekends,
bad.
I would cater there.
So, Stevie, I hear food. That's how you know I'm getting well. Yeah,
But I was doing everything, right? And I remember us fighting a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I can't believe that she doesn't appreciate what I'm doing, right? So I'm over here thinking that it's a lack of appreciation for my commitment and dedication for the long-term vision is why we're having these fights. When really we sit down and spoke about it, unfortunately, it was years later because we couldn't figure out how to really communicate in that moment. It turned out that like she was feeling neglected, right? So the point that I just made was 100% true there. Like I'm over here thinking that the conflict is really about something else to do with me, when in reality, all my wife wanted was to feel like, included. She didn't want me working all the time, even though she knew and did appreciate my ability to work every day and around the clock. But that was an example. It stuck with me forever. Brings me to a relationship with one of my best friends that he basically came. I took it as like he came at me. He sent me a pretty aggressive text message.
We're getting public, huh?
Right? Yeah, I'm not going to say the name, but, sent me a pretty aggressive text message on basically how I, don't communicate with him anymore and, the whole shebang about that. And I'm like, I respect how you're feeling. However, like I'm a dad now, right? I'm a husband. You're not married or have kids. So clearly our daily needs and our requirements, I should say, our daily requirements are already different right off the bat. You have a busy job, I have a busy job. So I was trying to explain to him why, I guess, but I was justifying. So I'm over here really thinking in my head, like, yo, this dude's a little jealous. Like he might be jealous. This was the emotion that I got. and the perception that I got from the text message. Because it was like, you're choosing to put your time into things that you don't even know are going to be successful. I'm assuming it's the podcast type thing, that type of stuff.
I would imagine he's talking about your body fat percentage.
But, like my immediate reaction is like, this dude's jealous, and then we finally were able to like break through it through the conversation that he just felt, listen, I do see you still doing things and I see you out and about and I want to be, kind of included in that. And I would appreciate if you took a little more time if this relationship means something to you. So I was like, damn, the guy's not jealous. He just simply wants me to, communicate with him more. And yes, it's a two-way street, but I could definitely be doing more. The time that I took to really identify what his needs were kind of changed the conflict. Yes, there's still a conflict there, but it's not what I thought it to be.
So a hack, if you will, about stuff like that is I've come to the realization that, or maybe I'm wrong and naive, but I always think it's not coming from a place of being malicious. I assume everyone's got a lot of stuff going on and it's not about me. Yes, I could contribute to it, but it's coming from a place of like, they're just overwhelmed or something. So I'm starting to not take things personal. And I don't really spend a lot of time thinking of that stuff. So I will apologize to like everyone in my life who I'm not communicating with well. But my thought is like, if they are true friends and stuff, we'll figure it out later. But now is a time that I got to focus on growing and doing everything I need to do within my little small sphere.
Yes.
And everyone that matters, yes, maybe they'll be like, damn, we didn't really talk for like this minute. But you'll reconnect. And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But I really don't give a lot of energy to reaching out to people and stuff because, if we don't connect and there isn't a ongoing relationship there, I'm appreciative for what I had with those people.
Yes.
And if it continues, great. If not, like life is tough. That's where like you can't.
Right.
There's
Life
just
is
the
hard.
reality is there's only so much energy for everything, and with big families and growing families and schedules and everything, you just have to be okay with like when I see him, I see him, and when you spend that time together, some would argue it's more valuable because then you really enjoy catching up.
Yes.
You like chatting, like Instagram and stuff, and Facebook's all great, and I love keeping up with people. But when you sit down with them and you just chop it up for like 30 minutes, it's so fun compared to like,
Yes.
So I think about that because that's a great point, and it is hard, and I am guilty, family, friends, cousins, all that stuff. I'm terrible. I'm absolutely awful at it. Dana's much better. A lot of people I know are so much better, and it makes me like, damn, I really got to be better at it. But reality is like, it's not a skill that I'm working on, unfortunately. I will get to it at some point. But
You're saying in terms of like reaching out and doing all that.
yeah,
extra
like
stuff.
I don't actively think that
I got
way
you.
because I'm so...
Gotta get through the days, man.
Yeah, I'm in
I hear
survival
you.
mode.
I
I'll
hear
be
you.
honest. I'm literally in survival mode with a sprinkle of trying to lose body fat.
And I don't think you're wrong at all, but I do think that for this conflict piece, it's at least important to when those conversations do arise, you take the time to understand, and you do. I know you do.
But everyone's relationship's different too, right? Like we have a great relationship where we don't talk, right? Part of it's because of the podcast. Because a lot of stuff we would chat about.
Right. We used to do that all the time,
Yeah,
right? Mike
it
and I
would
would
just
talk
be an abbreviated-
all day, every day, and then it'd be like, and I'm talking like via text message,
Yeah,
right?
like people, it changes and different relationships change. But like we have a great one, which I love, where it's low maintenance. It's like every time we hang out, it's like a brother. Like when I see me and my brother talk, but not to the extent you would think brothers talk. But then when we're together, it's like nothing's changed, and you catch up. But there's a unspoken agreement that you have with people,
Yes.
that I love, where it's like there's no like, hey, you didn't reach out.
It's a respect. It's a mutual understanding of the other person's life.
I think you get to a point too where you just know you like they care about me. I'm looking forward to catching up. It's not coming from a place of maliciousness that they're neglecting me. It's coming from a place they got a lot on their table, and I'm just not in the sphere of it, so I can't take offense to that. And they shouldn't take offense on the other end.
Correct.
And then when it comes together, it comes together. But it is what it is type of thing. It's not
I
good or
agree.
bad. It's just that's the way
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Well said. I think the most important realization
That's
for
my
me.
roundabout way of apologizing to everyone.
There you go. So everybody tune in.
Shoot
No
me a
Snooze Podcast,
text.
episode 101. Listen to Mike Pirelli about how many minutes in, CV?
Listen, if you like, subscribe. You can check in every week
What?
with us.
50. No way. That's because I think we started recording. All right, 42. Okay.
And it is kind of selfish on my part, but I'm at a point in my life where like everything's very clear to me, and I love all the people around me and people that I spend time with. I love, but I just realized like there's only so many swings. Like there's only so much time. You can't stress about trying to be the best to everyone. Agreed. You just, when you have the opportunity, you try to be the best, and that's all you
seize that moment. The biggest realization for me, man, I'm telling you, I was like dynamite when it came to this stuff. There was a point in my life, I remember, my dad, he asked me, he's like, dude, what's wrong with you, man? Like, you're like a hothead. You're like a punk.
Oh, I thought I took dynamite as a good thing.
No. Like, you're like a punk. And I remember that moment, and I was actually on the golf course with him when he said it to me, and I was very offended. But I was hurt more so than offended, because I'm like, that's not the perception I want to give out at all. Yeah. And that was a big realization for me. But, the point is that, like, conflict can never really fully end until you and the other individual have a understanding, not necessarily an agreement, right? But like my wife and I, years ago, we would constantly fight about the same things over and over again. Reason being was because I was very, I want to say, I can't use the R word, emotionally unintelligent, to where, was that a good save? Yeah. I was
still
very,
said it.
I really was emotionally unintelligent, man. Like, I wasn't even taking time to try to understand her perspective. It was me being in that Dave the Destroyer mode. Like, let me kill you. I only want my point across. And again, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that I'm this, guy that just sits here and is like, oh, let's argue. I want you to be right. Fuck that. I want to be right all the time. Of course I do. But there's a way that you go about these things, right? And a big problem of mine that I had for years too was that I basically sweep it under the rug. And I think a lot of guys in general do this, right? We don't put our pride, I guess our egos are too big in that moment, right? To where we're like, I'm not going to allow you to break me down.
I don't like being emotional, though. I'm not a fan.
No, you don't have to be emotional, but like it is my obligation, right? I chose to get married. You guys Correct.
decided.
But like nobody told me you have to get married. This is an arranged marriage, right? Absolutely. So now as a husband,
I was arranged.
Yes, Dave and Karina arranged that marriage.
By you guys.
It's my obligation to my wife to make sure that I take the time necessary to understand her perspective. I don't have to agree with it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I cannot continue as a man to sweep things under the rug. And then a month later, when the same conversation happens, it's like we never really got through that moment. So now it's like that pile just gets bigger and bigger. And then eventually I'm going to snap, right? That happens with a lot of guys. Whereas if we just take the time necessary to like work through those little uncomfortable moments, you avoid the big blowouts, right? And my wife has a completely different perspective than I have, as she should. Mm-hmm. But now I don't agree with it all the time. I'll tell you that. And I'll tell you that, Karina. But it's my duty and my obligation to listen and hear what she's actually saying. We talk about this a lot on the podcast too, but one of the best skills in the world is the ability to actually listen to somebody. Too often in my life, what I've done is as I'm listening to somebody, I think I'm listening, but I'm already preparing my next response.
That's podcasting though.
But you get what I'm saying? Like I don't take the time, or I didn't take the time to really conceptualize what somebody was saying to me. It was a big downfall of mine in business as well. Whereas now, I even have to say sometimes in meetings, like, just give me a second, I want to take that in. Okay, now. And then I go,
like
right?
The Godfather.
But it's a major like leap forward in terms. You're stupid. Major leap forward in terms of just progression in life in general, right?
Well said.
And that you touched on that point before, but I just wanted to bring some more clarity to it.
No, it's a process, and there's never. I hate to say it. There's always an issue. There's always something going on, whether you're aware or you're not aware, and you just got to get comfortable with like stuff's going to come up. You got to work through it, and it's never really over. Like nothing's clean. It's never like, all right, we argued here, and it's clean. It'll pop up.
It could happen a bunch of times. I agree.
But portions of it, like life is just not clean. We've talked about that.
Yep.
And when you embrace that, and like certain, adversity that's not really adversity, it's nothing major in the grand scheme of health and all that stuff.
Yep.
Then you realize like we'll just work through it. It's just another thing, and it's just another pin.
My final piece on conflict in general is if you take the time and you practice this, right? I think my it's happened to me a lot in my life, but the need for me to change was almost mandated for me if I wanted to stay in my marriage. You know what I mean? Like, it got to the point that it was like, all right, you better change or else, we're not going to even get married and work out. So there's been times in my life that I basically get to the bridge, whereas like some people like kind of just, they kind of step along, whereas many times in my life I've been forced. So it's a blessing to me. But if you actually take the time and you work on this skill, the reform that you have just in yourself, the results are incredible. Your relationships, your business, everything that you put your hands in will be so much different because of one small change that you've made. And again, I'm nowhere near where I know I want to be and where I need to be, because I still, lose it from time to time, and it happens. And it is what it is. Nobody's perfect. But it's something I'm extremely conscious of. And I know that conflict happens every day, so I got to continue to make progress.
One last note on my end. I remember telling people, like, I have bad temper. I snap every once in a while, but I'm pretty level-headed. I think people can naturally be a little more high-strung, but I think you can unlearn that. And by saying that, I've said in the past, there's a lot of things I've said just because that's what I say. And it's some, as a Italian kid, Irish, whatever you want to say, in a big family, that's kind of our predisposition, is having a hot head. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't really subscribe to it anymore. I used to. And I was like, yeah, I snap every once in a while, but I don't need to. Like, well, who says that I have to snap because I'm an Italian kid? Like, I don't really need to do that. And then when you look at it that way, you're like, oh, it is kind of dumb to say that to people when you don't really, because that's sometimes used as a badge of honor, because then people are afraid of you. Like, oh, don't make Mike snap. Be nice to Mike. Whereas I've never lived that lifestyle. I've snapped in the past, but when I say snapped, it's because I've, just lost it because I didn't know how to manage my emotions. But in reality, like, I can't say that to people and keep feeding into it. So if someone says, like, do you have a temper? Now I'll answer no. But like, no, not really. Like,
that's very good.
But that's a little nuanced thing that I think has made a big difference in my history, and something that I'm trying to change, and that I think I'm changing slowly. And if you know me, you wouldn't even know that I changed that. But internally, it's like, I always like use metaphors, but it's like knowing that under the boat you're in is calm, or like, the water below you is calm. So it gives you a little more ease and a little less chance of it actually. It's like self-fulfilling. Yes. Versus like if in your head you're like, oh, I'll snap. You're always aware of your thermometer.
Hell yeah. I love that analogy. A little tip, I guess, that I've definitely used now, and I use it in business specifically, and it's translated actually to my personal life, like in my relationships. But I now have the ability that if I am engaging in conflict with somebody, before my temper would just take over and I would only be in attack mode, right? Whereas now, one simple question I ask when I see that person elevating, right? I'm like, okay, I hear your concerns. I understand that you're frustrated. If I had a crystal ball, I know you've heard me say this, what is it that you want? Right? What is it that you want? We're fighting. We're getting into it now. But what do you want? Paint me the picture. Do you know what 9 times out of 10 I find the next step to that is?
What?
They don't even know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They literally cannot describe to me what it is that they actually want done. They're frustrated, but then 9 times out of 10, frustration is added from the fight that they got in with their husband.
They might not know because they might not know a solution too, though.
Well, no, but again, give me the problem as to why you're upset.
Yeah,
or it could be an accumulation.
Yeah,
and that's what it is.
But not just outside.
But 9 times out of 10,
it could just be an accumulation of things that have happened.
Correct.
That when you say what's the solution here?
Yep.
Well, if you have to start thinking about it, maybe it's not the one thing that got you to that conversation.
Correct.
Maybe it's 10 things that happened prior that you probably not even remembering, but they added to the frustration that just kept accumulating to a point.
And whose fault is that?
Them for not bringing up the conflict earlier?
You get what I'm saying? Like me, if that's me talking to my boss and I can't articulate how my point,
but there's no
and I'm
fault,
frustrated.
Right?
No. I'm saying
what it is.
Not a fault. A fault is a bad word.
Yeah.
It's my responsibility as a human being, though, to be able to manage my feelings. So I can't allow 5 different things that I chose not to speak up on be the reason that now I'm frustrated.
But
You get what I'm saying? It's
yes.
my choice.
Yeah. But if you're strict on yourself and lenient with others, you navigate that so easily.
Beautifully.
Because I realize this. I don't want us to come off like arrogant or anything. I realize not everyone wants to like do what I'm doing. Not everyone wants to put this effort. I enjoy it, so it's a personal thing that I enjoy. But I can't expect everyone to think about things that way, think through things like it. Not everyone's the same. Everyone's got other stuff going on. When you realize that like all you can control is yourself, then you give people the benefit of the doubt. You don't get too mad about things. You don't take things personal. You just kind of, it is what it is. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just data.
Love it. So that's good on conflict for me.
So F you.
I want to turn it over to you because I know that you wanted to touch on, a little money situation that's
Theory?
going on, a little inflation, a little money talk, if you will.
Yeah, I just want to like share some basic thoughts that I have day to day. This is not financial advice, but wealth and money.
I say funny things. You say wealth.
I did say that weird.
Wealth.
Personal finance. So I've really enjoyed digging into personal finance, and I think it's made me overall a more calm person because I think a lot of stress lies within people thinking about their next move to support their family, support themselves, which I understand. And I'm still in that mode, but I really like knowing that I have a little more control than probably the average person because I do spend a lot of time learning about it and taking every opportunity to understand more and more steps of it. I happen to like math. I happen to graduate with a degree in finance. So I am a little more primed to take in the information. So my thought was, let me just try to, I like to try to break things down very simple because that's how I look at things. Yes, all of these topics, you can go a million different ways and it's not that black and white. And I get that. But if you know kind of the core principles, you can act and make decisions with a good amount of direction and input.
I like it.
One of the things that I know is going around is this buzzword of inflation. So I was in my head, I'm like, all right, well, like if Livy asked me, like, what is inflation? I heard someone say it the other day, which I thought was genius. It was some economist. And he basically said, like, think about this. If we all had bank accounts and we had 100,000 in each bank account, right? We all have 100,000 in the bank account. And the government one day said, all right, now you have 90,000 in all your bank accounts, right? Would you be pissed?
Yeah, I mean, you just somehow decreased $10,000.
Yeah. So instead of 100K, you have 90K. So inflation is the slow angle to that. So instead of saying we're going to take out 10, we're going to print money so that you still have 100 in there, but it's really worth 90, right?
Yes.
And it's spread out. So just how when you invest, when you spread things out, like a crab, when it's in a boiling pot of water, if you put it right into a boiling, it screams and whatnot. But if you slowly increase the temperature, it'll boil and not even scream because it doesn't know it's boiling. So we are all crabs, and the government, way to look at it, controls, it's called fiat money, but basically money that is not anything that is controllable. So like the dollars, someone can print it, the Fed can print it, which means it's not a sound or money that appreciates, it depreciates.
Right.
So inflation is literally just depreciating your money away. So when people say cash is trash, which I know the old adage is cash is king, which I've never agreed with, or in my later years don't agree with. Cash is trash is just saying that eventually you got to have cash for emergency purposes, all that good stuff. But eventually it's going to evaporate away. And the person who was making 10 grand 50 years ago, whatever it was worth a lot more than someone making 10 grand today.
Yes.
Right. So the second part to this inflation talk is, all right, well, if I know my money's evaporating away and there's a timeline, it's the equivalent of someone lighting it on fire, and the longer you wait, it burns up, then how do I protect myself? So again, not financial advice, don't sue. If you have a bunch of cash, right, it's the equivalent of being in a pool or in the water and you don't have a float, right? You're just at the bottom. And as they print money, it's more water. So the water's rising and you have a farther point to get to the air, right? If you have assets, that's like having floaties or boats. And when they print the money, the water pushes up your assets. So you are at least staying ahead of the inflation. And if you have cash, it's as if it's just holding you down under the water because you need more of it. Like if you're using cash to stack up so you can get your head above water, it's going to take you more money to get your head above water. Versus if you put it into hard assets or things that are goods that increase with it, then you at least have some protection. So all I can say is I would do some research, look into assets. The reason real estate is going bananas is because people are afraid that their money's not going to be worth the same in a couple years. So like, I would rather overpay in an asset that I think is going to appreciate and something tangible versus my money being printed away.
Yeah. Very well said. I think the piece, CV, you switched on me or no? The only piece that I'll add on inflation, which I think sucks, and I don't think you can answer it, I don't think I can answer it, is, we have the ability now, and by no means are we, financially free in terms of like no mortgages and no payment. No, not at all what we're saying.
In the handcuffs.
The thing that's frustrating, I think, for people is throughout this process of inflation is not everybody realizes that it's temporary. Yeah. Not everybody realizes that it's part of history.
It's not temporary.
Well, no. Hear what I'm saying. Oh, shit.
Sorry, my bad.
Go ahead.
It's not temporary. That's a big point. Like, in the history of the dollar, it's always depreciated.
Correct. No, that's going to happen.
Every form of money, whatever used, is always losing value.
Correct.
Forever.
No. That I agree with 100%.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is more of the, I guess it's the lower and even like middle class that struggles paycheck to paycheck, where their salaries aren't increasing. They don't have the ability to do what we're talking about. And now their eggs just went from $4.50, which was what I was paying, to $6.99. Right? Those families don't have the ability to have the freedom and flexibility that you and I may have, which is frustrating to see, because there's no real fix to that in terms of what I can give you or you can give you.
Yeah, the argument would be, yeah, I understand that a lot of people, and that's the first hierarchy of needs. Like, you take care of your lodging. Yeah, you take care of your essentials. You have to find a way to make a little extra with the side hustle, with the skill, something that you can just put away.
That's a good point.
And now more than ever.
But it's a sacrifice because that single mom, yes, she might have an incredible ability to sew, right? And she could probably sell some things. But now she's got to make a conscious decision to take time away from her 3 kids that live in an apartment to find some time to sew. So it's tough. It's not like it's black and white. You know what I mean?
There are a million ways to make money. Uber, like,
correct.
You could put the kids in a car seat in the back and pick people up. Like,
ooh, okay. Got a Sprinter van. It was an analogy, but I hear what he's saying.
If you have a kid,
you can find a way. I get what you're saying.
And I know it's probably not hitting well because a kid from Greenwich, saying this, but there is the ability now more than ever to buy into things, anything, assets, whatever it is, by getting a divisible piece of it, right? So like you have credit, so there's an ability to leverage credit. If I really believe that I can sell T-shirts and make a decent amount of money, then I can borrow, a home equity, not a home equity, but just credit card.
Yep.
Get it and then get some cash, right?
Yep.
The first rule is definitely you want to try to like accumulate, but even for the person who doesn't have the time to put the energy into it, something, for example, again, not financial advice, like a Bitcoin, you can literally put, yesterday I invested $10. I was going to get coffee. I said, all right, well, I'm not going to get coffee, and which would be like $10, whatever it is. So I'll just use that 10 that I was going to do and buy Bitcoin.
Coffee, bro.
Well, whatever.
No,
to drive there at the end of the day.
Of course.
So in my head, I'm like, all right, I'll buy $10 worth of Bitcoin. And I mean, if you have $1, $2, $3, whatever it is, get something that hopefully in the future you're going to like. It's going to appreciate.
Yes.
And you're going to look back and be like, well, I bought that at $1, but it's worth 10 today.
Yes.
Or whatever it is. Anything. I mean, that goes with anything.
No, well said. And my last piece on that is, I don't want, again, people to think that we're just sitting here pretty, right? I was talking to these guys before off camera. I literally had a day throughout my investments and my stocks to where I lost $70,000. Right? And it sounds like it's a ridiculous amount of money.
You didn't lose it.
Which it is, correct. And that's my point. It sounds like, one, it's a ridiculous amount of money. It's really not when it's spread over throughout the assets that I'm talking about, right? But the way that I'm choosing to look at it is, yes, if I was retiring tomorrow, of course, my stress level would be a little bit higher. I'm in this game long term, 20 years plus, right? So there's going to be ups and downs and ebbs and flows that are going to continue to happen throughout my career. right now I'm viewing it as like, okay, I'm not going to up my ante in terms of what I'm investing, because some people would, very aggressive people would.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep mine the same, because right now I'm buying those same stock options and the same shares at a discounted price. So I just wanted to share that, yes, we have lost money throughout this crisis. Mike always sits here and talks about Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin was $65,000 at one point.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is about 30 right now, which is okay, because you have an opportunity. We have an opportunity. I told you off air, my dad is making me invest in Bitcoin, so I'll be piggybacking on you.
Go.
But I just want to make it clear that we're not like, hey, we just keep winning. We just keep winning. Like, it's not what it is.
Well, so in basketball, right? You say like scoreboard when the game's almost over.
Scoreboard.
But at the end of the day, the scoreboard's when we die. So like at the end of the day, it's like you don't lose or make.
Right.
It's just all part of the game.
No, I just wanted to share that because I don't want people to think that we're just,
no,
everything's
we're unbelievable investors.
Hey, my guy. Final thoughts from you.
I was gonna say something that was actually valuable.
Yeah,
I would say just figure out a way, high skill. Oh, this is what I was going to say. So Warren Buffett, a lot of people love. And
who's that?
He's the Oracle of Omaha, considered one of the best investors ever. His whole thing, which I do like him, but some of his stuff I disagree with.
I hate his hair.
Yeah, he eats like McDonald's every day, which is like fine if you want to do that. I'm not eating McDonald's if I'm worth what he's worth. I'll tell you that much. I'll make someone.
Would you be 10% though?
Yeah. If I had more money, I'd be absolutely
you would get lipo.
diced. I'd get everything. I'd get all the
faja
tricks.
and the lipo.
No, I'd have all of the tools so that it'd be hard to be out of shape.
I disagree with that.
See, I agree wholeheartedly. So his whole thing, which I've been thinking a lot lately, is when there is an opportunity and things are on sale, his thought is there's only so many great opportunities in your lifetime. And he thinks you got to take big swings. He's like, it's almost worse that Bitcoin's at 29 and you don't buy as much as you can, because in the future, if that goes up to 100 like you think it does, you're going to be mad at yourself and be like, wow, it was a golden opportunity. And now in the future to make that again, it's going to be very difficult. So it's interesting to think that way because it is risky. So the thought is if you have safe investments that complement your risky ones, you're able to take bigger swings.
Yes.
Because it's not going to ruin you. If you have your emergency fund, if you have your safe investments, then the argument's like, do you take the big swing? And I think you do. I think you got to swing for the fences on some investments, and you only have to be right once. Versus if you have to be right 20 times, right? That's my thought. I'd rather be right once with a home run than hit a double and a single and not score.
What if you go broke swinging for the fences?
Then you're broke anyway. But that's the point of the emergency fund. Like, you're not going to go broke. You're just going to miss. You're going to strike out for that one at bat. You know what I mean?
It's a risk.
You don't remember. This is just a thought. Yep. You don't remember the guy who hit the single. You remember the guy who hit the home run.
That's right.
Not that I want to be remembered. That's kind of fun.
No. But it's.
I'm just saying, if we're in this life, why can't I fly on Air Force One?
You can. Because I'm going to be the president, and you're going to have an opportunity to fly on Air Force One.
We've been watching a lot of travel vlogs, me and Dana, because I want to visualize. Like, we got to get there.
We got to get
first class. But I looked at the prices, so I'm like, maybe not.
You know what it is too?
It's fun.
That differs about you, myself, individuals that have the ability to think this way. Even though we're not extremely affluent,
no,
we have affluent thoughts.
Yeah.
But it's part of the process, right? Like being able to really see yourself and like, you know what? I belong here. I deserve that. But knowing that there's going to be risks and some hard hits along the way, it's a skill. It really is. But I think everything that you do in your life complements and adds either to your affluent thoughts or, you can be somebody like my wife that, she can see it, but she doesn't really choose to believe it, because she's extremely comfortable with her life. She's very, and I need her in my life. Her and my mother-in-law, I need them because they humble me. Because if not, I probably would go broke.
Oh, I definitely would.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So you need somebody in your life that's like, you know what? You have everything and more than you need. But I just like that balance,
But
like you're
that's
talking
fine.
about. You know what I mean?
But that's
it's good.
That's
though.
where it gets fun is when you're like, yeah, well, I mean, worst case, we'll live in a tent together, and I'll still have the love I like.
We're still by the lake,
They're
babe.
probably
We're just
not
in
happy,
a tent.
You know, I always joke with people, and I say to some people in my office when like a big listing comes on for like $100 million, I'm like, this girl Ingrid. I'm like, Ingrid, wouldn't I be much more fun rich person than this person?
Absolutely.
And they're like, yes. I'm like, so the world's gotta, you know,
I like that.
like they're not living life the right way. Like I would do this.
I would do this.
It's funny.
No,
to think
man.
that way.
Good shit today. This will bring us to my favorite section, Dave's Dime of the Week.
Dime is 10%.
Ah, that's right.
You almost got to a
Okay.
nickel.
What?
We would have changed to Dave's nickels because you'd been 5%.
No,
you think you
no,
get to 5 next year?
Listen, I don't know.
Because I'm going to be down.
I need to win
you
some
know?
money in this too.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we could do bets on that.
I need to win some money. This one is a very good one. I need to take a sip of water first.
Yeah. Can you tell that I'm a meathead now? I drink everything out of my protein shake.
Which, by the way, so Mike has this little protein shake here. It is beautiful because it has the No Snooze
Double,
podcast logo. But the most rookie thing that somebody can do is have this blender piece in their actual blender bottle. Yeah. So usually when I see that in the gym, I expect and I hear it because you hear the rattle. Go ahead, rattle it into the microphone real quick.
It's because I'm like a rattlesnake.
Rattle it.
I want to let people know that I'm coming.
Right. So usually I look over and it's like a 15-year-old kid that just started lifting. Because the first thing that I do when you're at 7% is I throw that little blender thing away.
I'm aging backwards. That's why.
All right, good.
One?
So if you stayed with us this long, here it is. Conflict is inevitable, but combat is optional. So that applies to my life extremely well, especially in the past, because a situation would arise and I would choose to go to combat. I would choose to go to war with one mission, to destroy whoever it was that I was arguing with. Which in some things in life, it's great to have that mindset. But when it comes to your everyday business, your everyday relationships, your everyday journey of progression, it's a terrible way to live, right? So I've chosen to take the time to understand and try to see people's perspectives, even though you can never really live in their shoes. But it's extremely important and valuable that in this ugly, ugly world, we don't always have to go to combat, right? We can choose to work things out and we can choose kindness and respect. I feel like a preacher.
The big Gandhi.
The big Gandhi. I like it. I like it.
Send them home. Like, subscribe, grab some merch. I got to load up. I got holes.
I just bought 3 pairs of shorts. They're on the way.
I don't know if my laundry's bad.
They're gonna
I
be
have holes
fire.
in my joggers. Anybody else have holes?
It's probably the little animals you have, flying squirrels that are eating through your shorts or something. I don't know.
We are in battle with animals at our house.
Listen, so we will be dropping what's called a little summer series. We're going to make sure that we hit you guys week to week. I know we've taken, a week here, a week there. So we're going to do our best, and we're going to bring you some content to where it might even just be Mike or myself. A little 15, 20-minute, even 10-minute bite-sized
I would say
hitters.
less. 5 for Mike. Maybe
5 from Mike, maybe 10 or 15 from Dave.
Yes.
Which should be reversed. 15 from you because Mike is 15%.
We'll call mine fast
He's gonna live
money.
there.
We'll call it fast money, mine.
I like that. So yes, guys, that's something to look forward to. And anything that you guys want to hear, you can always email us at NoSnoozePodcast@gmail.com or hit us on Instagram at NoSnoozePodcast. So until next time, stop snoozing.
Get up and get after it.
And Mike is 15%.
Do we change it to get up and go get it? Too many G's.
That's another Effie in the books. Go follow us on Instagram and Facebook at No Snooze Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, No Snooze. Come on.